It's the height of World War II. Germany has just invaded France, and the German war machine is gaining might. Winston Churchill had just created the SOE, or the Special Operations Executive, on July 22, 1940, to carry out dangerous specialized services for the war effort. Among these operations is spying in the recently occupied France. This is one of the most dangerous jobs in the war effort. Many brave men and women take this job and never return. Among them is a small, brave woman, Noor Inayat Khan.
Noor Inayat accepted the job of radio operator in occupied France, the first woman to ever do so, where she was alone doing the job for 6 radio operators, all while evading the Gestapo for 3 months before being captured, while most only lasted a matter of weeks doing the job of 1. After capture, Noor was held for almost a year by the Nazis in prison, while being beaten, tortured, and starved on a daily basis, but she never gave up any information, ultimately ending in her being shot by the Nazis on September 13, 1944. Her hard work and determination would go mostly unnoticed for years, but eventually she would be rightfully recognized for her work in the war effort and earn herself the name Spy Princess. Noor Unisa Inayat Khan was born on January 1, 1914, just outside of Moscow, Russia. Great-great-great-granddaughter of the Tiger Mysore Tipu Sultan, making her royalty. Her father, Inayat Khan, was a Sifu preacher and musician. He went on a mission to America, traveling all over the country on the instructions of his teacher. Inayat Khan and his brothers traveled together under the name of the Royal Musicians of Hindustan. While he was in California, he met a woman named Honore Baker. The two fell in love and went to London to get married, and Honore was christened Begum Amina Sharada. Inayat Khan started a pilgrimage around Europe, which he would continue until the birth of their first child, Noor, when they were in Moscow, Russia. The family left Moscow after the First World War broke out in 1914, moving to England, where they lived for the next 6 years. While in London, the family had 3 more children, which Noor often cared for. When Noor turned 6, the family moved again, this time to a house just outside of Paris.
When Noor was 13, her father left for a pilgrimage back to India. He never returned. Noor's mother took his death very hard. She went into seclusion and refused to meet with anybody. Noor stepped up to take care of not just her younger siblings, but her mother too. Noor did eventually manage to pull her mother out of seclusion, and slowly her mother returned to her old self. Noor also had many hobbies. She was a musician like her father, played many instruments like the harp and the piano. She also enjoyed writing. Noor studied child psychology at Sorbonne and music at l'École Normale de Musique en Paris. After she finished school, Noor produced an English retelling of the Jataka Tales, the fables about the previous incarnations of Buddha. Her book, 20 Jataka Tales, was published in 1939. As soon as World War II broke out in Europe, Noor immediately volunteered for the Red Cross and began training as a nurse in France. In 1940, when Germany invaded France, Noor decided to move to England to volunteer for the war effort. Noor ended up volunteering for the WAAF, or the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, under the name Nora Baker. After first being rejected for not being of British descent, she was eventually accepted and started training as a radio operator, and was among the first to be trained in her field. While Noor was working as a radio operator, she caught wind that the SOE was looking for radio operators with special language skills. Noor fit this description well, as she spoke fluent French, along with having prior experience with being a radio operator and knowing the area well.
She went to meet with the SOE, where they informed her that if she had joined, she would be sent to France as a spy. She accepted. When she started her training as a spy, she wasn't great. She was referred to as not overburdened with brains, and she has an unstable and temperamental personality, and they doubted if she was suited for the job. She accidentally left her code lying around, had a hard time using weapons and learning how to kill due to her Sufi beliefs, and once accidentally gave away her British background by pouring milk into a cup before tea. Eventually, she learned how to handle guns and explosives, kill silently, send encoded messages, and identify enemies. Once she mastered all of the abilities she needed to be a spy, she was given the codename Madeleine, and her papers under the name Jeanne Marie Renier, the name she would use in France. She was sent to France on the night of June 16, 1943, as a part of Operation Nurse. She was sent off by her superior, Vera Atkins, who pinned a silver pin on her lapel for good luck. When Noor arrived in France, she met her French superior, Henry Gary, a local French recruit. Noor settled in, and within 72 hours of her arrival in France, she began to transmit messages.
Within the first 10 days in France, all the top operatives in her circuit, Prosper, were captured by the Gestapo. The SOE advised Noor to go into hiding to avoid capture, so Noor, with another SOE agent named France Eltemine, went into hiding. While in hiding, the two gathered as much information as they could about the betrayal and arrest of the Prosper agents to give to London. Soon the job became too dangerous to continue, and London ordered Noor to return. Noor, realizing she was the last tie between England and France, refused to return to London. By August of 1943, Noor was the only radio operator left in occupied France.
For the next 3 months, Noor would do the work for 6 radio operators, all while evading the Nazis' efforts to capture her. Noor was constantly moving around to make the Nazis' efforts to capture her harder, and she called on the help of her old friends in Paris for food and a place to stay while transmitting information to London. Noor's work during this time included not only radio transmission, but also helping London find places for arms drops, supplying money and ammunition to the French resistance, and she was instrumental in helping shot down officers escape occupied France. While in France, Noor knew the Germans were monitoring her radio transmissions and that she would soon be captured by the Nazis.
Noor was almost captured twice while she was in France. The first time, Noor was stopped on the metro by 2 German officers. They inspected her radio set, but she got away by saying, "Can't you see it's a cinematographic apparatus? Look at the light bulbs!" The second time was even closer. She was hanging her aerial outside of the apartment building she was in at the time when she heard a German officer behind her say, "Can I help you, mademoiselle?" She convinced the officer that she wanted to listen to the wireless, which was banned at the time. The officer helped her put up the aerial, and half an hour later, she was transmitting to London. While most radio operators lasted only 2 weeks, Noor kept doing this dangerous work flawlessly for 3 months. In mid-October, Noor was about to fly out of France because the job was finally becoming too dangerous, when she was betrayed.
A few days before she was set to leave to return to London, Noor was betrayed by Renée Gary, sister of her French superior Henry Gary, for 10,000 francs. Noor was arrested. It took 6 officers to contain her and take her to the Gestapo headquarters. She immediately tried to escape but was caught. Noor tried to escape again a few weeks later with 2 prisoners by climbing through the sky window when the RAF started bombing, but the Germans checked the room and caught them before they could escape. After these failed escape attempts, Noor was labeled Nacht und Nebel, a label for highly dangerous prisoners, and the order of her transfer came directly from Berlin.
Noor was transferred to the German prison Pforzheim, where she was tortured and beaten regularly, while also being fed little to nothing, but she never gave up any information, even her real name. Throughout this ordeal, Noor would commonly remind herself of her father telling her that she had the blood of the Tipu Sultan flowing in her veins as a source of strength. While in prison, Noor regularly communicated with the women in the cells around her by scratching messages on the dishes they received their food on. Eventually, after over a year of these conditions, Noor and 3 other female prisoners were taken for execution on September 11th, with the words "I am leaving" being the last thing she scratched on her food dishes to the other prisoners. Noor and the other prisoners were escorted by an officer named Max Wazimer, who told them that they were going to work as agricultural laborers, while he knew he was escorting them to their deaths. The 3 others were killed immediately. Noor was beaten and tortured all night before finally being fatally shot in her head the next morning by SS guard Wilhelm Rutherford. She was only 30 years old. Her final word was "Liberté."
Noor Inayat Khan's memory did not die after her death. She was mentioned in dispatches in 1946. She also has her name commemorated on the Fanny, First Aid Nursing Yeomanry. She was the first Asian woman and also the first Muslim woman to be listed. She was also posthumously honored with the George Cross and Croix de Guerre. She is listed on the SOE plaque in Dachau. In Surrens, France, she has a square named in her honor. In 2012, Noor Inayat Khan's bust was unveiled in Gordon Square Garden. The unveiling of the statue marked the first time an Asian woman would have a sole statue of herself in the UK. In 2014, she received a stamp in her honor, and in 2019, Noor became a recipient of the Blue Plaque in London. She was the first woman of South Asian descent to receive this honor. The campaign for many of Noor's memorials was led by Sharabi Basu, author of the 2006 biography Spy Princess. The biography introduced Noor to many people and reviewed her previously rather unknown and unnoticed history to the public eye. Noor's help was an essential turning point in history. Her work showed unwavering bravery in the face of danger, and her story proves that.
Noor Inayat Khan's body would eventually be cremated and word of her death sent back to her family in London. Noor's work for the war effort would go unnoticed for years, but eventually her bravery would be recognized nearly 60 years after she was killed in Dachau concentration camp. Noor's work not only helped shorten the war effort, but she was also the first Asian and first Muslim spy in occupied France, and one of the first women to take such a dangerous job. From the start of her training, she was considered an improbable candidate for the job, because she was a woman, because of her beliefs, and her unusual background. But instead of being held back, the Special Operation Executive helped her excel and change history. Noor was just a young woman that wanted to do good, but her work would ultimately shorten the war effort and save many lives.
A most brave and touchingly keen girl, she was determined to do her bit to hit the Germans, and poor girl, she has.